ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
Very nice to see you all and congratulations to everyone on Gurpurb. I hope you've had good celebrations so far.
Yep, you too.
Okay, brilliant. So let us start with brief introductions, and as we do the introductions, I'd just like to check that everyone knows how to use the raise hand feature. If you look at the bottom of your screen where it says reactions, could I just ask you all to raise your hand, because then I will call on you as you've raised your hand to do the introduction, if that's okay, because that way it's going to make my life a lot easier if you raise your hand so that I know who to go to next in the discussion. So I'll start with myself. I'm Jasveer and I'm based in Birmingham and I am an educator and researcher. Josh, yourself, please.
Hello everyone. I am Josh Singh and I'm from Edinburgh in Scotland and I am the founder of Number One Healthcare.
Thank you. Saki.
Hi, I'm Sakjinder Dhillon. I'm a manager at BT and also a presenter for Sangat TV, and I'm based in Coventry.
Lovely. And Kamaljit?
Hello everyone, Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm Kamaljit Kaur. I work for Global Financial Institution. I work in financial crime prevention and detection, and I'm based in Leicester.
Thank you. And Pam?
Hi everyone, I'm Pam Bupal. I'm based in Leeds and I work for West Yorkshire and Harrogate Health and Care Partnership, and I'm the co-health lead for Seek Alliance Yorkshire.
Okay, great. And Pam?
My name is Param. I own a leadership development and coaching practice. I'm based out of Toronto. I'm excited to be here today.
Okay. And Professor Surinder?
Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm Professor Surinder Singh. I'm a musicologist. My speciality is the sound and human behavior, especially from Guru Nanak's court. And I'm an educationalist, also a researcher for Raj Academy Conservatoire. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. So today, our discussion is about the connection between symbology and leadership. And I've had some conversations with you individually, and we have spoken about many different symbols and values. You know, as you know, there could be hundreds of Sikh symbols that we could choose to speak about in relation to leadership, but the ones that we focused on are some of those listed here, the values and emotions. Likewise, there could be a very broad spectrum of values and emotions, but for today, we're going to focus on those because I want to think about ethical leadership in terms of three concepts: from the heart, empathy, compassion; from the mind aspect, innovation, and the way that we behave using examples from Sikhi; and in terms of the soul, prestige. And I know that word prestige can be a bit ambiguous, but later on I will explain why I'm using the word prestige. And if we start with the first question about how symbology has an impact on leadership, and we can look at the concept of ekankar, oneness, and how do we cultivate a sense of empathy and a sense of benevolence towards others who may not be part of our spectrum of what we consider to be kinship. So there is kinship, and then there are the others, those who may not necessarily fit in with our community or family or our society as such, but nevertheless our gurus have taught us to be benevolent unconditionally. So in a concept of humanitarianism. So if we start with that question first of all, and I will go to Josh Singhji, if you could let us have your thoughts on that. And then once you have finished, if you could lower your hand, because then I will know that it's not a legacy raised hand, and I don't call on you when you don't necessarily have something to say, but I will start with you, Josh Singh, because your hand is still raised.
Okay. So do you want me just to start with the three images that we've just looked at first?
Yes, those images, well, Ikomkar, I'm sure, is so very, very familiar to each one of us, right? So that concept of oneness for you as an entrepreneur, how do you use that concept of oneness in your leadership, in your entrepreneurship?
I use that as we're all one, so equal, you know, we're all united as one, as part of a team. So even though we have a leader within our organization, but we're working towards the same achievement to get the same results. So that's how I look at Ekomkaras.
And you know, on the other hand, there again, as an entrepreneur, you have to become trusted with a wide range of people who may not necessarily see you as part of their kinship group. How do you deal with that?
Just obviously, you know, kind of know who you're dealing with, or who you're working with, in terms of that. If I'm, yeah.
I remember from one of our previous conversations, you know, the thing about names, and know that people think we are part of their kin if our name sounds the same as their name. I know that when I meet another person called Jasveed like myself, I feel a sense of, you know, kinship with that person because their name is the same. And I know that, you know, you've struggled with people pronouncing your name.
Yes. So it's more of that connection when you know somebody's a Singh. Obviously, you know that they're a Sikh themselves, or a Kaur. So, you know, you kind of say it's a Apana, you know, person, you know, that you can kind of trust and relate to more, or, you know, kind of have that same level of understanding and working to, you know, towards together.
Yes. And Japmanji, I know that you've just kind of re-entered. So before I go to Kamaljeet Kaur, I will just ask you, Japmanji, to tell us a little bit about yourself, because you missed the introduction, and then I'll go to Kamaljeet to follow up on this.
Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulty and to disrupt the flow. My name is Japman Singh. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, born and raised Canadian. And hey, there, of course, I saw the fist bump. Excellent. And I work in educational technology. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to build companies. I won't go too long. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And Kamaljeet Kaur?
Thank you. So for me, when I think about Ikomkar, you know, I think about we are all one from the perspective that we are all part of that spark, I guess, or we all have instilled with us a spark that is from the Almighty. So when I think about that from a workplace point of view, or from a leadership point of view, I'm thinking that if we are all same of one, I guess, that actually displaying those, I guess, characteristics of empathy, compassion, and humility becomes almost second nature. And it doesn't matter about someone's background, you know, any other demographic or their faith. For me, it's if you show these, or you're able to, I guess, build on these characteristics and display them, then for me, that really advocates equality in the workplace. I think for me, when I've been in a leadership role, leading a team, it's having that, I guess, those fundamentals that help to build relationships, and for you to be successful in a place of work or outside of work even as well. Those relationships are built on trust and compassion, and I think those are almost instilled in us as part of our psyche, perhaps without us knowing. And for me, I guess that's what represents that's what Ikomkar really represents for me, and how I guess bring that to life.
And it's very difficult to lead people unless you have empathy with them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, you know, but there are people that I don't empathize with. there are lots of people I choose not to empathize with if they are, you know, maybe doing things which I consider to be unethical. I find it very difficult to empathize with them if they are, you know, displaying kind of behaviors of corruption and, you know, those kind of things do go on in organizations. I find it very difficult to empathize, and I wouldn't be able to lead effectively unless that was resolved. You know, that situation would need to be resolved for there to be trust. And so there is that, that we do need to address things so that we can empathize and find out, you know, why people are doing things the way they're doing them. Let me go to Palm. Go ahead, Palm.
Hanji Waigerji, so for me, what comes to mind is from the one came the sound, and the sound is what created everything. So we all come from the same source, and at the core, we're all the same. So having empathy and sympathy for each other is what keeps our core connection stronger, what ties us together, what binds us together. Because without sympathy or empathy, we consider ourselves, or it's easier to consider ourselves separate. Most, if not all, of human conflict is connected to separation, thinking that someone or a group of people is separate from one another, or a group of people is better or far superior than one another. So sympathy and empathy goes hand in hand with coming from the same source. The sound of the ik, when I bring that into the workspace and into real time and real life here in 2021, with the leadership development and coaching practice that I have, I come from a place of serving my clients as opposed to selling to them, right? I have to serve them because as a coach, from an ethical perspective and standpoint, I'm in their corner to help them grow from who they are to who they want to become faster than they could alone. For us to do that appropriately, I have to serve them and not sell to them, because it's a tag team, right? I'm walking side by side with those people. So me selling to them does no benefit to either one of us. But me serving them, empowering them, helping them realize that that next best version of them is already within. They just got to uncover and discover, and we'll do that together. And that can only really happen for me if I'm coming from a place of service and not sales, if that makes any sense.
It does, because if it came from a place of sales, it would be very difficult to trust. You know, if we feel that that person is only doing this simply because they want to profit from this relationship, if that's the only motive, then it would be very difficult to cultivate that level of trust which is required for coaching to be effective. Yeah.
And within the world of coaching, typically that relationship kicks off with a complimentary conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And if I were to put a sales spin on it, it would be complimentary. But that's where it comes from, is from a place of service, not sales.
And let me go to Sakjinder. Sakjinder, I think you may be muted. Yes, you are.
Sorry, apologies for that. I was just going to say I actually resonate with what's just been said. As a people leader of a very diverse team, not just in the UK, but also I've got one in South India, and I've got a diverse population. I'm a leader, and in India, for them to have a female leading them is probably a little bit awkward for them, and then for that person to be Indian but based in the UK. And it comes down to building trust, respect, empowering them, engaging with them, and also letting them know that it's not just the end goal about results for the company, but you're actually interested in them as individuals and building them, as just been said, to be their better self, and taking them from where they are to the next level, seeing them then go off and get promoted. And even here, it's very difficult sometimes for a diverse team to see an Indian woman leading them and calling the shots. But it comes down to, as you say, using your Sikh values and sort of feeding them to them bite size. Mm-hmm. I'm going to trust you, I'm going to empower you, and I want, you know, that to be used wisely. If not, you will lose privilege. And whether that privilege is you can log in from home every day, otherwise, you know, right, troops, let's get back into the office, and you've got to deal with the commute. So it comes down to sort of give and take. But at the end of the day, I always say I might be working from home and my boss may not know what time I log in and log out, but the higher power does, because he's watching over me all the time. So it's about being true to yourself as well as others.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Jagmanji?
Thank you. Yeah, I love that last, well, a lot of what you said then, like the being true to yourself. Like, you know, I think over the last, 30, maybe just Virkur, you'd probably know better, but 30 plus years, this notion of servant leadership has become sort of pretty dominant in leadership talks and leadership circles and leadership research and studies. More recently, this like idea of empathy that we're talking about now has become a bit more popular as well. But I think, like, you know, is it Sakshinderpan, like what you just said was around, like, you know, being true to yourself. You know, Gurbani sort of says that whole thing, you know, around like you can't just wear the religious robes, that doesn't make you religious. So conducting the rituals of empathy doesn't make you empathetic either. And so that truthfulness, that like the empathy actually has to resonate with, like, it has to be a resonating vibration, like Baran Virji, when you were saying, like, you know, there's that vibrational notion, right? That one in that vibration, like it has to be authentically you. Otherwise, it's just ritual. It's just an empathy, a ritual of empathy as opposed to authentic empathy.
Yeah. I didn't really want to use the term servant leadership because it means so many different things. But when Palm was speaking, that's what I was thinking. Like yourself, I was thinking that. But I suppose, yes, that's when values-based leadership started to take prominence. And in the past, this whole thing about, well, there has to be heart in the leadership. It wasn't really, people thought that it was about status and dominance, and now, you know, the well-being is becoming an integral aspect of leadership. Let me go to you, Pam. Go ahead.
I just wanted to echo basically what everybody else has said. Absolutely agree with everything that's been said so far. I think for me it resonates on 2 points around earlier points. I think Kamaljeet said it about when you're leading a project or a program, you know, you kind of got to bring people on board with you, and that's a similar sort of thing of what's that goal, what's that vision, what's that thing that you're going to interact with people on. And I work with a lot of chief execs across hospitals and councils, and we always talk about flashing the hierarchy. And I think that's really important here about equality and getting rid of that hierarchy. Anybody can be a leader. It's not just the chief exec or the director. And I think that's really important to get across, just everybody in generally, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Professor Surinder, I'm going to ask you this next question about oneness, because I know you have, when we had an individual conversation about this, you were very clear in the concept of oneness and what it means to you. And also this, this relationship between stories like Bandi Shor, where it's very clear that when we are being leaders and influential leaders, we don't simply look after our own. The story of Bandi Shor is it's a story of altruism. It's a story of benevolence, not simply for our kith and kin, but benevolence in a broader sense. So would you like to share your thoughts, Professor Surinder, about this concept of oneness and benevolence?
Thank you, Jasveer. First, it comes to the being very clear on the philosophy. I mean, oneness has been, the philosophy is given to this oneness, the word oneness, Ikonkar from Christian viewpoint, from Hindu viewpoint. It's a different philosophy. See, it's a Buddhist interpretation to Ikonkar is completely different to what Guru Nanak Ji is giving it to us. So what is the perspective? What is the purpose of Guru Nanak creating a new narrative, giving a word didn't exist before Ik Onkar? Why Om was not sufficient? Why the Buddhist philosophy was not good enough, why Islam, which was prominent, or yogic streams happening at the time of Guru Nanak, why did he had to create a new narrative? And that narrative created a new culture, a different kind of leadership, where Nanakji invested a program, I will say. Today, psychology, we look into 200 odd years ago, the new program was introduced by some people, and Guru Nanak Sahib introducing much richer program 550 years ago for humanity in a leadership, very different, very, very tested, 239 years of that program, which is actually is a Bandi Chhod. I mean, Bandi Chhod is the freedom from within. Within. Now we are thinking about society, we are still sadly talking about the leadership, male and female, and caste and creed. It's quite disturbing, because the social interpretation of oneness has been taken from what Guru Sahib given it to us into very godified. The God is one, or Khuda is one, or Rabb is one, and is being made something which Guru Nanak never talked about, never. He was invested into humans. He said, if you can't configure yourself, you can't lead your life. If you can't lead your life, if you're not free within yourself, how are you gonna be, what is the purpose of Bandi Chhod? I mean, how will you raise your voice for others? How will you be able to guide and coach? I see Guru Sahib's life, Jasvirji, that, the tripod, that his mother was his backbone when he was growing up. Then his sister took over, then his wife. Nanakji is a concept. Nanakji is a wisdom on a tripod, a leadership, a beacon, a light, a concept, and a wisdom. And I was just this morning thinking about this conversation, and it came to me, the Guru Nanakji's writing. He writes and confirms, he says, Dharm Khandaka Eho Dharm, Gyan Khandaka Akho Karam. He answers everything. He says, the dharm you call, the religion, whatever the outfit you have given it to a Hindu or Muslim or whatever, if you have no knowledge, it's not that what you believe in leadership, but what is your knowledge over it? Have you contemplated on it before you took action upon it? So when he challenges those things, the ritualistic institution, we are ritualistic institution as a society also. We are living in, as Benji was saying, a leadership, a female leading South India and people here, we are culturified. There is a new narrative happening. And Nanakji broke that. When we are talking about a Sikh perspective of Ek Onkar, we have to look into the philosophy and the psychology combined by, and how he made complicated things simple and easy and doable. For me, Guru Nanakji's program, or what he symbolized, what he gave it to us, when you started the conversation, you said, I don't empathize with everyone, I can't. But then I see Guru Nanakji going to Kodde Shah, who's a cannibal. I mean, who's like really like a, I will be afraid, forget about empathy, but he empathized. He empathized with Sajjana, who's a thug, who kills people, who's a serial killer. Then he empathized with a thief. His name is Apumia. And it makes me think, how is Guru Nanak thinking? And me being a student of Guru Nanak Sahib, hey, I'm missing here something, what sort of society will I conform? Will I free myself? Will I go into Bandi Chhod within me? Will it benefit me personally? I have to look into that. So I think when we look at from social perspective, Dr. Jasveer, British social perspective and Indian social perspective, I know I've been in Toronto many times, and the culture there we don't really fit well, but these are social differences. But Nanakji is not talking about those. Sikhi is not about the social differences. Sikhi about oneness when it comes to humanity, when it comes to our behavior, when it comes to the way we are thinking and our pathway to freedom. That's what I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. I suppose when I talk about not being able to empathize with people, I'm being transparent about my own limitations. I think the broader the circle of those that we can empathize with, the better the leader we can be. My limitations. I have friends who work in prisons. I couldn't work in prisons because
but it doesn't mean like I'm not here as judging you or labeling. What I'm saying, like, it made me think. Actually, it did when you said that. It made me revisit my Nanak's personality. He's my coach. He's guiding me. So I have to think, what is the capacity of my teacher and what is he offering me? And me being a seeker, I mean, like, I'm a Sikh before I am a citizen of UK. And there is two parallelities, and I have to respect both. But I see me Sikh before being anything else. I have to be human. I can't behave like a sheep. So, and again, we follow, right? And I follow Guru Nanak's footprints, and I think, what's in it for me? What is it going to offer me? So from that perspective, I said, you made me think that why Nanak empathize with everybody and with anybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've heard somebody saying in the leadership field that the quality of a leader is like the number of people they love. So the more people that we can truly, sincerely love, the greater the leader we're likely to be. But let me go on to the next question now. And the next question is about egalitarianism and prestige, or the influential type of leadership. So in Sikhi, we are taught to, I suppose, in a way, the concept of oneness, supports this notion of that there are no hierarchies in terms of racial superiority. We, when we sit down and eat together in the langar, it's like practicing the concept of egalitarianism and also rising above oppression. For me, the fact that Guru Gobind Singh Ji rode horses and he had a falcon, those are examples of prestige. These are the symbols of leadership, like when we are not necessarily dominant, but they symbolically, they kind of signify our influence and our potential. Same with my Bago. What do the rest of you think? Could you please raise your hands again so I know who to call on first? So here the question is about leadership and not feeling that we are elevated because we're in that leadership position. Can we remain equal and humble with everyone and at the same time be influential? Josh Singhji, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, basically, with looking at the picture, and when I obviously, with myself, like, I know when we go to the Gurdwara, we're, with the teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and in the Guru Granth Sahib, it says that we're all equal, we're all one, and this is the teachings of Sikhi. And especially when we go to, to the Gurdwara and have langar, we're all sitting on the floor, so there's nobody, who's any upper class, wealthy or poor. We're all sitting on the floor and having langar, so it shows that we're all equal. Seeing Guru Gobind Singh Ji, on the horse is like victory for us, for Sikhi, back in those centuries of years, for us to hold our pride of Sikh and still to be Sikh to this day. We went through quite a lot with the Hindus and, Muslims and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very pride, and obviously to see that, that we're, it's a teachings, and it shows that we are all equal, even when it's death. I mean, it's nothing that we take with us when we're born. It's nothing that we've got. We've never born with a gold spoon, even in time, growing up, if you become successful, whatever, but when you're born, you come with nothing. And when you leave this world, you go with nothing. So that just shows and simplifies what Guruji is saying, is when we go to his Darbar Sahib, we are all sitting equally on the floor. We're all having the same tal. We're all chucking the same langar. There's nothing special for anybody else.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very well said. And it's, you know, the image I have, like, I've been to a wedding and these people came in Lamborghinis. Yeah. And then, you know, they were very impressive. And, but then in the Gurdwara, we sat on the floor all together and ate a simple langar. So, you know, it's being humble enough and knowing that, you know, those symbols of prestige are simply symbols. That's not the essence of who we are. Pam, go ahead, please.
For me, these images recall two experiences for me. So the first one is when the COVID incident was really, really bad in India. Me and my NHS colleagues got together and we raised £46,000 to kind of help, and we kind of had conversations with lots of different hospitals to say, could we send over oxygen tanks and different things. So to me, it wasn't about me sitting there going, look at me, I've raised 46 grand. It wasn't about that. For me, it was about being humble in that moment. It was about, you know, what's the biggest thing here? And I always have to keep coming back to that. What's the values in Sikhi that I've grown up with that are going to make me humble and be down to ground about? I've never done this sort of fundraising before, let alone raise that amount of money. So I needed to remain humble. And I think Sikhi really taught me that through that experience. And I think the other angle for me is my mum is Yorkshire's first female Pradhan of Gurdwara. So that idea of women in leadership in my Bago, we've got a lot of great characters to draw that energy and strength from. And I don't think we should lose that. There's a lot to learn, but there's also, we should be lifting as we climb. And you know, people keep saying to me, Pam, get involved in the Gurdwara stuff. And I'm like, I'll just give mum the leadership stuff from home. But yeah, I just think, when those things happen, we really should be elevating those voices and celebrating. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially my Bago being the, you know, symbolize, because we don't have a lot of female symbols in our historical kind of the 500 years, even though equality is advocated, we don't have a lot of images of females in that role. So well done to your mother for being the first Pradhan in her area. Professor Surinderji?
It just made me think, if we are everybody, then we are nobody. And if we're nobody, there's no leadership. And this is where we are misreading what Guru is saying. Guru Gobind Singh made us look different, talk different. When Gurumukhi was introduced, it was a new narrative. It was not that Guru picked up Sanskrit or Pali or Punjabi or Devanagari. Guru created a new narrative because he understood that he had to separate us for leadership's sake. So when we sit in the langar, it's a concept of equality that we as a leaders, that we sit in a langar in a service, and we are okay with the sharing meal, but that doesn't mean the losing the identity that what the sacredness Guru have given it to us. Yes, I do understand what Penji was saying. You know, Sikh image has not been depicted in the history, but it's not that it's not there. It's filled up. The Sikh history, Guru Nanak Ji's existence is with his mother, his sister, and his wife, you know, Mata Sulakhani. Like what I said, the things here can, you know, probably resonate with me. But if we have to leave home, we have to, you know, put kind of an application to wife, say, hey, I'm going for 2 hours, 3 hours. Guru Nanak Ji was out for 28 years. His backbone is his wife, the understanding, the legacy, because we're not looking into it from that angle. You know, the whole education came into the hands of Mata Sundari Ji, the Mahal of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, education, where Nawab Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, his mother, and a lot of legendary names were carved by her. Well, I'm saying leadership, when we look at from a Sikh viewpoint, in this leadership, there is something unique, that horse is not just a symbol of wealth here. Horse is a symbol of a rebellion too, that, hey, I'm going to do this, you like it or not, because I believe in this. What I believe in, I'm going to follow it. And that determination that comes with a focus from within. If you don't believe in yourself, you will become follower. And Nanak Ji refused to follow. He said, I like seeking, and through seeking, I learn how to lead. So I was just thinking when Benji was talking about, for me, Pam, my grandmother, after the gurus, she was my teacher. She is the leader of my life. I think mother in every household, although she's an unsung hero, father thinks that he's an unsung hero, but that's the social story. But I think when we see even gurus, Guru Angad Sahib would have not been Guru Angad Sahib if there was no hand of a female, so we have to write, or we have to bring those stories out, the stories of leadership, stories of making leaders, that incredible existence in the chapters of the history and these unsung heroes. We think only Mai Pago, she was a 9 of the super council around Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. There was a security council, not that Guru Gobind Singh needed it, but she was one of that council. But Mai Pago was not the only female in the brigade or in the army. There were so many other leaders, female leaders, that we didn't talk about it. So it's a false kind of narrative we're creating, which is not true. You are a leader, Pam. You raised 46,000 pounds. You done that what Mai Pago did in the tough times, making the right decision. So, Sikh's legacy will go on. But remember, if you will be like everybody other, just normal, just there is equality. Yes, there is. When we share the food, when it comes to humanity, when it comes to we being humble, but when it comes to leadership, we are very, very clear on our job roles, and we are ruthless with it. That's what Ranjit Singh or Banda Singh Bahadur have shown us, that if you will follow the trap of, you won't own your chair, you will, in no time, you will become nobody. So that's what his Sikh history shows. Guru Gobind Singh's falcon, Guru Gobind Singh's horse riding shows us that we have to own what we've been given as a Guru Prasad, as a blessing of leadership.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm glad that you mentioned your grandmother, because when I talk about prestige, that's the kind of leadership that I'm talking about, is the kind of leadership that somebody doesn't have to be dominant, but they're influential. And also you mentioned Pam raising all that money. And so that's also to do with prestige, somebody's capacity to be able to manifest these things and to have the reputation for being highly skilled and highly competent. And everyone on this call has prestige because everyone here is successful at what they do, as professionals in the business world. So this is prestige. It's not about dominance. It's not about being competitive with others. So, okay, let me go to, Sukhjinder is the next person whose hand I see raised. Sukhjinderji?
Yeah, I'm just going back to the point of powerful females in Sikh history. Mata Kiviji, the wife of one of Gurujis, actually is mentioned in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. I would encourage everyone to take that step and read Gurbani yourself and make it a part of your bucket list that you're going to read Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, because the jewels and the gems that you will find in there will really make you stand head and tail above the rest, yet remain humble. If you really take from it what Guruji is trying to tell us. And obviously, I just listening to Professor G, they've obviously done that, and they've delved deeper, because what we see is very much a narrative of a male dominance, if you will, for lack of a better term. But when we look at Sikh history, I actually did a whole series on the women in the lives of our 10 Gurujis. And we started with the midwife that brought Guru Nanak Dev Ji into this world. And when, she actually said that she didn't need anything else, because just seeing Guruji's darshan as a child had fulfilled her and made her enlightened, and she couldn't express her feelings, yet she's telling the world she's got everything. She doesn't need anything else. And it's a case of Guruji encourages us, and certainly when we look at Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, to be the best that you can be, to be successful, to be that Lamborghini owner, but remain humble, help the next man, lift those, carry people with you. Don't trample on people, but carry them and raise them and their spirits as you go along through life. And I think that is one of the core messages of Sikhi. As I said, I did a whole series on it, and it went right from the midwife at Guru Nanak Dev Ji's birth right through to Guru Gobind Singh Ji's wives, Mata Sahib Kaur Ji. And when Mata Sahib Kaur Ji was empowered, Amrit Khande Bhatte da Amrit, they took a huge part in that. So I think, it is there, but we just don't hear enough about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Sukhjinder Ji. And Palm, let me go to you now.
Hanji, so when I think of langar, the concept of eating together, sharing a meal, sharing a meal is one of the simplest and most powerful ways of connecting, of breaking barriers. Everyone loves food, right? So having a meal together is universally a fantastic way of breaking barriers. So that then further promotes social equality. And it makes me realize how so far ahead the game our gurus were for instilling a concept like langar. And then I also think about the concept of saint soldier that Guru Gobind Singh Ji had raised. To be saintly before you be a soldier, to think before you act, and to have intentional actions. And that's one way for us to continue to be influential, rising above oppression, to first use our mind and be in control of our thoughts. Because when you can control your thoughts, be in control of your mind, then you can conquer your world. And that's where Manjita Jagjit comes from, right? Or plays into everything. How that relates to me here in 2021, my coaching and leadership development practice is based off of Manjita Jagjit. I've called it Conquer Leadership, which relates to conquer your mind for a very specific reason, because that resonates with me. That's a reminder for me to live out those Sikh values every single day. When I'm serving my clients, quite often I'm talking about, in the Western English way, but I'm talking about Nam Japana or faith, Varn Shakna, where it's serving or sharing with others, or earning an honest living. Because ultimately, yes, we can all drive Lamborghinis, we can all be Lamborghinis, and in pursuit of that, why not bring others along the journey? Why not uplift others along? Because the view is always greater at the top when you've got company with you, when you've got the right type of sangat with you. So there's no reason why we all can't win, regardless of what your definition of winning is. But similar to what everyone's saying is, let's bring others and empower others to come along and grow and transform with us along that journey.
Yes, and at the same time, we talk about Lamborghinis, and at the same time, a bicycle ridden very well can be just as prestigious. For example, I'm thinking about Fateh Singh Ji, the marathon runner. He runs 26 miles. He doesn't need any vehicles whatsoever. And so that's prestigious. He leads through example, and if he rode 26 miles on a bicycle and compared with somebody else who's driving in a Lamborghini, who would be more prestigious? It's different for everyone, so those coaching goals, they might, it's very contextual, isn't it? For one person, they may aspire to owning a Lamborghini, and that is success, but for another person, being able to ride a bicycle is a measure of success. As I think it was Sakchindarji, you said the story about the midwife who was content simply by having witnessed the birth of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. For her, that was enlightenment itself. Kamaljeet Kaurji, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think I was just going to, I guess, think about one final point here, which is about the warrior imagery. And I think about our history and heritage and how it's imbued with, I think about Shastra and the Kirpan and actually what that represents from a prestige point of view, from a history point of view, from a standing up against oppression point of view, and how, for me, I guess that encapsulates really righteousness and defending against oppression. And I think those are things that I think about when I think about, I guess, symbolism within our faith. And I think Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj even said, if, when I'm not here and to the Sangha that were there, actually, we can do Matathek to the Shastra instead, because that's how much, I guess, how much it means to us. And I think for me, that was quite a symbolic thing that I really wanted to call out.
Okay, thank you. And Jutman, do you have any comments? Because I'm not sure if you were there when I said like to raise your hand. So I'm not sure if you
honestly, there's nothing I could say that
okay. We'll go into the next one,
adds to the dialogue.
Yeah, we'll go to the next one. I didn't want you to feel that I'm ignoring you in any way, but please just do raise your hand when you are ready with a comment. The next question is about innovation and heritage. We've spoken about Gurmukhi. Professor Surinder, he talked about the fact that our gurus gave us a different identity with the concept of Gurmukhi. They didn't use the existing languages that they could easily have used, but no, it's like it's a different script, and we have a lot to be proud of in terms of our heritage over the last 5 centuries. So what are your thoughts on this dual thing in leadership of being able to protect and nurture our heritage and at the same time continue adding to it with more and more innovation? So who would like to start with that? So what is it, how is it that we're being innovative? I know, okay, Sakchindarji, go ahead.
Very recently, I had the privilege of interviewing a gentleman from Singapore by the name of Mr. Amardeep Singh, who's actually created a series, thegurunanak.com, and he calls it a Langar narrative. And he would say he's unboxed Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And I, for one, was very excited that his series, the 24 episodes, are all in English. Because there are more than 8 million Sikhs alone out in the Western world whose first language is English and not Punjabi, in the sense they can't read and write Punjabi, or it's very limited. But for the first time, somebody's put that 8 million before the sort of 50 million or whatever it might be that are, in India or whatever. And I was very excited about it. And he would say he has unboxed Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, because Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj is for everyone, not just for Sikhs. And it comes back to the concept of mankind and oneness. If we're not sharing our Gurujis with the rest of the world, how can they then understand us or come on board? How can then we share what we want to share with them? And it comes down to when I was some years ago, when I moved to the United States, and I came across a lot of white Sikhs. And I wanted, the question that came to my mind was, they've done Amrit Shak, they're really following the Sikh path, they're in Bana, they're doing Kirtan, the whole 9 yards. I was born in a Sikh family. Why am I not doing that? What is it they understand that I don't? And I was, then I went on my own sort of it's an inner search, isn't it? You go on your own journey, and I went on mine. I'd had a very solid understanding and foundation of Sikhi thanks to the Sangat in which I found myself as a child, but I still had this search, these questions. But I was able to learn from these white Sikhs and understand Gurbani, and I'll always be totally indebted to these people, as with what Mr. Amardeep Singh Ji has done. It's sharing with the whole world, and I think it's an amazing concept, and that for me is innovation. To put the English language, which is universal, first, and then say, right, now I'm going to raise some funding to convert all this into Punjabi.
I admire the work of Amardeep Singh. I met him a couple of years ago when we were celebrating 550-year Gurpurab.
Yes.
So, and he's one of the people who has inspired me to do what I'm doing now, because, and he was interviewed for the previous leadership conference, and he has been taking part for several years in the creativity and culture conferences. So yes, his work is definitely an example of innovation. Professor Surinderji, go ahead.
Just very quickly, I do believe that group made us multilingual, but when we are talking about Sikhi, then Sikhi is not in Punjabi. Punjabi is like Baba Sheikh Farid, you know, when he was 1,000 years prior to that, the Sikhi was Punjabi was at peak, and the Punjabi have 41 sounds in it. The Guru chose 35 in Gurumukhi. Gurumukhi is not Punjabi. When you read Japji Sahib, there's few questions, for example, where was it created? Number one, where was it created? And why didn't he use Punjabi? Why did he bring words from Persian, Devanagari, Pali, all of these? Why did he turn Gurumukhi as a melting pot? Number one. Number two is that if I want to become doctor, that's not good enough. Just I have to study. I have to study that parameter, you know, that narration of medical science, that I have to equip myself. And this was the main reason, so that his philosophy doesn't get hijacked by Vedic system or Buddhist system or Sufi system or Islamic system. What Guru Nanak Ji did, created a new narrative, new symbol, new philosophy was introduced to humans. But we've fallen back into the trap because we don't understand Gurumukhi, or Sada Hath Tang Gaya Punjabi for, I will say, you know, shouldn't be, but it's just another language. You know, I don't speak Spanish, doesn't mean that I'm, you know, there is a problem. But what I'm saying, language is something worldly, socially, but where we are talking about spirituality, we are talking about a very different concept, sound current, as Param said earlier, that, you know, Guru, the Akal Purukh, with the sound created us. This is what Guru Nanak Sahib says. What is that sound? What is Gur Mukhi, that technique from the mouth of the Guru? What is that? And therefore, we are the Sikhs. We shouldn't shy away from learning. Yes, English can introduce us to history. Then what? Then after that, okay, Nanak is amazing. He wears amazing clothes, and he's a traveler. He's amazing. He's the richest person in Southeast Asia. Okay, then what? For me to sit with Nanak Ji, I have to build my own understanding with him, and that will come from the Gurumukhi. This is why Guru Angad Sahib made sure that there were different images to which, you know, later on, especially after Ernest Trump, 1850, the Punjabi started adopting. Before it was a Shahmukhi. Punjabi was written in Shahmukhi script. We must not ignore that we are, you know, community 6. Germans are in the 3,000. Those who don't even know how to say Sat Sri Akal properly. There's, you know, Estonian, Finland, and Russians, and Spanish, and Germans. Sikh is not a Punjabi speaking or a culture-fied. Sikhi has got nothing to do with that. If we were talking about humanity and leadership, then we have to break that box of Sikh is not Musalman, and Musalman is not that he can't be a Sikh. By Mardana is you don't have to convert. There is not, a special star on your. It can't be that okay. I have to the Josh thing. I have to judge you that you don't wear turban. You're not Sikh. That nonsense didn't exist in Sikhi. But 1850s, the British, when they colonialized everything, they brought that. It was Ernest Trump who created a division between Gurmukhi and Punjabi and installed this crisis and conflict with us now, which we are suffering from. And see what we are doing. English have 26 sounds, right? And we are missing 9. Gurmukhis and anga, dada, all of this is gone. And when you Guru say Gur, Gord, Dina, Mita, we are missing something here because our approach is okay, I don't understand. And when we understand Guru Nanak from English perspective, we get trapped into a Christian viewpoint, a borrowed vision. So missionary interpretate Ek Onkar to God is one, and Nanak ji doesn't say that. So the conflict the crisis, we give birth to crisis. And I think if we look into Gurmukhi, if we look into Sikhi as a lifestyle rather than an identity, and we start from home, that is okay, Uda has to be earned by me, Ada has to be earned by me, Rada is not the end of the, my tongue has to be trained to be shifted like that, so that I can have a one-on-one with Nanak and ask him these questions, why there is a discrimination, why there is a still pop, what did he miss? I want to ask that question, that if he couldn't change, he can't change anything. So Nanak is beautiful, amazing. When I look and read his stories, he's like a superhero, yes. But, I'm looking at in relevance to me, what can you offer me, Nanakji? What's in it for me? Can you do something for me? Can I transform myself, my pain into success? Can you coach me how to do that? I just don't want to go to Param to learn because he looks, a funky, different looking guy, speaks nice. No, I want to see what does he have to offer me? And Gurmukhi does that, individualize you. It gives you focus. It gives you a program. If it holds you, and speak English, speak French, speak everything, as Nanakji is promoting that when he's bringing Pali, Devanagari, Persian, so many languages, in 36 languages and dialects. He's promoting you to be multilingual, multicultured. That's a freedom he's giving us. But at the same time, we should not box Nanak or unbox. He's a phenomenon. Nanak is a wisdom. Nanak is like a Pavan Guru. That's what Nanak is, and wind cannot be trapped. So we can interpret Nanak based on our understanding and his concept, and which is fine and beautiful. I respect that. But at the same time, we've got to be very, very careful that we don't put his wisdom on a leash, our understanding that mere to Punjabi nahi honi, menu music nahi honi, main nahi karna, mere to thalle nahi beh hunda. Josh was saying like langar chit sare thalle bende, nahi bende thalle. No. Kursiyan te bende jehde disable hai, wo bende jehde bujurg hai, wo kursiyan te bhi hon bende. Now there is another narrative is getting created, and if we say it's wrong and this that, we always, so society will bring us down. But evolving is not the issue. But when we evolve from core, we deteriorate. Core has to be confirmed. Core has to be protected. Core has to be understood. So when I look into history, Dr. Jasveer, there was a Sikh, just hear me, there was a Sikh who was very, very rich, billionaire. His name was Lakhi Shah Banjara. Singh Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj at the time. I mean, like, You know, then I see Mahinder Singh Dhoni, he was captain of cricket team. His name is a Singh too. Oh, I was looking for somebody with a pug in the cricket field. Oh, he's not. What I'm saying, the words are giving us a very different interpretation from what we are. Khanda was never our identity. Jasveer Kaur, in a conversation with you, I did say that British imposed that on us to make and class us as militants, the warmongering community, and our symbol was Ek Onkar. Before 1850s, what was the symbol on Nishan of the Khalsa? Check it out. Check it out. They demolished us. Our scholars, Udasis, our practitioners, where the public trial happened, Nirmalas, where PR campaign happened with Sajtari, where the serving community like Khalsa Aid is doing now was the Seva Panthis, where the forces, the Nihangs, all of these institutions got dismantled by British brain. Amazing job they did. But they are out. We're free. Or I'm thinking, are we? We don't even have a symbol. We don't even know what our symbol was. We are borrowed symbol, Khanda, which was never ours. It was the Ek Onkar. And why we're forgetting, and why there's still collision between I don't know Punjabi, therefore I don't understand. Guru Nanak never spoke Punjabi. When will we stop telling these stories to ourselves? That that language is not a barrier. It is just a hug Nanak wants, and we need to reach out to him. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Professor G. I know you're very passionate about the subject, and you're obviously a scholar in this field, and at the same time, the focus is on how we apply it to our own lives, and each one of us, as I said, is an expert in terms of how we apply it in our own lives. And just in the interest of time, I'm planning on continuing for 10 minutes. Is that a problem with anybody if we continue for 10 more minutes? Okay, brilliant. Let me go to Japmanji.
I might have to file an insurance claim because every time Surinder Virji was talking, I was violently like, yes, like, yeah, I get you, I hear you. So in my neck might give myself whiplash. It was really good. Thank you for sharing all of that. It was expansive. I do a lot of training around design thinking and innovation with a lot of teams and a lot of companies, and training people to sort of get out of their traditional mindsets of where they are and where they want to go to innovate new products or new services or things like that. And one of the things, and I mean, Surinder Virji can certainly talk about this far more than I can, but Maharaj gave us music ingrained into how we connect with the Guru. Like music, you always play music. I always play music when I'm running these workshops because music is liberating. Music has a transformative power. And for us, we've been gifted it. Like it's gifted through rag and melody, infused in everything that we have as given as our Gurbani gift. But the point of it is, when I do these sessions, I often try to play games. And one of the games I like to play is sort of a mishmash game. So very quickly, just as an example, I might say, okay, team, there's music playing, and I say, okay, what if tomorrow Coca-Cola and Honda merged and became one company? What would their new product and service be? And I let the music play, and they think, and they make notes, and they move on. And the idea is, how do you take traditionally existing forms and structures that people relate to and they can identify with, but then transform? And I think about what Maharaj's entire journey of the gurus have given us, even taking the Khanda symbolism, right? Like at a time where religion and spirituality was either the mindless rituals that were conducted in the four walls of the mandirs and the mosques and the whatever, or the asceticism of like, we're going to go run away to the forest and the yogic paths of, reject all and reject everything. Maharaj gave us what we now know as, we traditionally identify with as the Khanda. Both. Be a spiritual ascetic while living in the world around you, and a social revolutionary to change the world around you, all guided by the divine strength and power, right? And I mean, innovation is embroiled. It's intertwined with our entire people, and it's been gifted to us with the music. And anyways, that's all I wanted to share on this one. It's just innovation is in our blood. innovation is in our blood, to look at the world around us and think, how can we help transform? I mean, Maharaj transforms us with Ik Onkar. We start off as two, right? We start off as duality. We start off as interacting with goods and bads, and Maharaj talks about it at length, but we take the guidance of one to, funny enough, try to become zero, right? And anyways, that's all. I'll stop there in this interest of time.
It's a journey, isn't it? It's a journey. It's not always a straightforward journey. Sometimes we can go round and round in circles. So go ahead, Palm.
And so to build off of what Japman was saying, Gurbani is innovative. What comes to mind is Gurbani is innovative. It's a language given to all people so that they could experience Gurmukhi is innovative because it was a language given to all people to experience Gurbani, Guru's word, and learn through instruction that Gurbani is really just that, instruction on how to merge back into Vaheguru. It's innovative because through Gurmukhi, by way of Gurbani, we're taught how to win this game of life. So being innovative is an inherent Sikh value, right? For me, how that plays out in the work that I do is competence. To be skilled at, to be an all-star at what I do, what we do as a collective, and like we physically stand out as a group, as a people, it's also important for us to find unique ways for us to do the work that we do and have that work stand out. Just like Japman was doing with what he does with his creative design exercises, that's fantastic. That also comes from the inner work, self-leadership. And that's analogous to being a Sikh. A Sikh is a self-leader, right? It comes from within. So all of that tied together, I think, is an answer to one of the questions, but those are just some of the thoughts that are just popping into my head. But a Sikh is a self-leader, and from self-leadership, that gives us credibility to lead others. Because if you can't lead yourself towards growth and transformation, what business do you have leading others? We have to begin leading ourselves to some kind of growth transformation, whether it's whatever the case is, doing your Nitnem, reading Gurbani, doing your Simran, being able to merge into Vaheguru, whatever that is across the spectrum that we're all individually trying to get to, self-leadership is inherent and analogous in being a Sikh.
Yes, and we're not competing against anybody else. We're simply competing against our own selves. Like Jagjite. So it's like, as Professor Surendraji said earlier, it's like about Bandi Shor, it's about our own freedom, isn't it? It's breaking the chains that we've created for ourselves. Who else has got something to say before we conclude? Josh Singh, do you have anything else to say? Kamaljeet Kaur?
No, I'll say anything.
You're okay? And okay, well, let me thank everyone profusely. You have been outstanding. I have had an amazing conversation with you all, and I look forward to continuing these conversations, and hopefully we will all learn by challenging and inspiring each other like this. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Vaheguru Ji. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Wow.